Heartbreaking story of a homeless veteran. The sun was setting over the city skyline, casting long shadows on the pavement as Jake tightened his tattered coat around him. The cold bit into his skin, but he had grown accustomed to it over the years. Jake wasn't just any man on the street. He was a former soldier, a war hero who had once been celebrated for his bravery and resilience. Now, he was just another homeless face lost in the crowd, a forgotten remnant of a past life. Jake's life had changed irrevocably on a crisp autumn morning 8 years ago. He had returned home from his final tour of duty to find a world that no longer felt like his own. The war had left scars, not just on his body, but deep within his mind. The nightmares were relentless, and the sounds of gunfire and explosions haunted him even in his waking hours. Unable to adapt to civilian life, Jake's marriage fell apart. His wife, Laura, tried to help, but the PTSD turned him into someone she no longer recognized. One argument too many led to her leaving, taking their young daughter, Emma, with her. With no family to turn to, Jake spiraled into depression. The military benefits were barely enough to cover his mounting medical expenses. Soon, he lost his home. What began as a temporary stay at a friend's couch turned into living out of his car, and eventually, the streets became his new reality. Jake set up his corner on the outskirts of downtown, a spot where the foot traffic was light, but enough to occasionally receive a kind word or spare change. His companions were an old, patched-up sleeping bag and a small, weathered photo of Emma. Her innocent smile was his only solace. One evening, as Jake sat hunched against a brick wall, a young woman approached him. Her hair was tied in a neat ponytail, and she carried a clipboard. "Excuse me, sir," she said hesitantly. "I'm from a local shelter. Are you interested in a hot meal or a place to stay?" Jake looked up, his blue eyes weary but still piercing. "Thanks, but I'm fine here," he muttered. It wasn't the first time he'd been approached by well-meaning volunteers, and it wouldn't be the last. The woman lingered, sensing his hesitance. "Sometimes talking helps," she offered softly. Jake sighed, then nodded toward the empty spot beside him. "Why not?" he said gruffly. As they talked, Jake found himself opening up. He told her about the war, about Laura and Emma, and how he had ended up on the streets. Her name was Megan, and she listened intently, her expression a mix of compassion and determination. The next day, Megan returned, this time with a hot cup of coffee and a small gift, a pair of woolen gloves. Jake was taken aback by her kindness. It had been years since anyone had shown him genuine care. Over the following weeks, Megan became a constant presence in Jake's life. She introduced him to resources he hadn't known existed and helped him navigate the bureaucracy to access his long-overdue veteran benefits. Slowly but surely, Jake began to regain a sense of purpose. One chilly December morning, Megan handed Jake an envelope. Inside was a bus ticket and a note with an address. "This is where Emma lives now," she said gently. "I found her for you." Tears welled up in Jake's eyes as he clutched the envelope. He hadn't seen his daughter in over 6 years. "Why are you doing this for me?" he asked, his voice cracking. Megan smiled, her own eyes glistening. "Because everyone deserves a second chance." The journey to reunite with Emma wasn't easy, but it was a turning point in Jake's life. For the first time in years, he felt hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness that had consumed him for so long. Jake's story didn't end with a miracle cure or instant happiness. It was a journey of small victories and continued struggles. But he never forgot the kindness of one stranger who reminded him that he wasn't invisible, that he still mattered. And sometimes, that's all it takes to begin again.